Allison Arngrim Show, and I'm Allison Arngrim. Some of you may remember me as evil Nellie Olson, but tonight I'm Allison Arngrim, and it's the Allison Arngrim Show. And here on the Allison Arngrim Show, we talk about things that make you feel good, the movies and the TV shows that made us feel good, and the people who made them, and people who are doing things now to make the world a better and more interesting place. And I have someone who can excel in every one of those categories tonight. Yes, three-time Emmy nominee. What? Only nominee? Robbed. Should have won. Three-time Emmy nominee, voice of Porky Pig and Tweety and Luke Skywalker in the video games, an all-around really wonderful person, actor, teacher. Yes, Bob Bergen. Hey!
Allison, how are you?
I am wonderful and even better now that you're here.
By the way, do you know the first time we met?
Oh God, no! But it was like ages ago because it's like one of those ones we kept
No,
going
no,
until finally.
I sat next to you at an autograph show, I think at the Beverly Garland Hotel, and it was the first I'd ever done, and you just said, "Watch me do what I do," and it was you, me, and Edie McClurg next to me.
Oh,
okay, that's where you and I met 1,005 years ago. I had never done that before.
I suppose it used to be the Garland, and I loved it then. It was Ray Quartz and everybody ran it. And
yes,
Ray Quartz,
yes,
and
yes.
oh, and they were so sweet. And it was a real like down-home little family event, and it was at the Beverly Garland, which is just wonderfully goofy place, and everybody was there. And then it kind of moved to the thing at the hotel in Burbank, and then LAX. Now apparently it's back in Burbank, but it became like a real show, like a corporate thing. And it's like,
right.
Darn, I liked it when it was like some kind of garage sale with
his
family.
Lovely. Held my hand. I said, I don't know how to do this. And you said, there are no rules. Just watch me.
Yeah, I was like, watch me.
Yeah.
Because I am the queen of the autograph shows. That is a thing I am good at. I have a whole system. I had my little rack with the thing with the files because I stole this one from Kevin Hagen, who played Doc Baker in House of the Prairie. First time I was in an autograph thing with him, he had this 3-ring binder with little sleeves, plastic sleeves, with every 8x10 he had, color and black and white, whatever he had for sale, numbered. And it's, here you are. And they'd flip through the book and pick one. And then he had a cart, which he had a rolling cart with a big crate of files and had them there. And they'd go, oh, number 27. And I was like, really?
Wow.
And I immediately went out and did that.
Wow. Well, you know what? I will tell you that people kept asking me for pictures of things that didn't have them. And you looked at me and you said, you need a picture of everything you've ever done.
True. But it's true. And you still on my table, and I'm constantly having to add to it. Oh, I have to add a thing to it. And this is the thing for anyone who's watching. Yes, I'm going to make one of these. I have been asked repeatedly, and I was asked again in France, do you have like a thing where it's like a two thing, like a, landscape style, one of you, one of Nellie together thing? And I'm like, duh, you're right. And people were making them themselves and bringing them in. So yes, I will make one of those. So you can all
and
come.
people do make them. They make the collages of stuff for us to sign. And I'm like, people, that's so much work. Thank you. That is so much work.
Right. And it depends. Like some autograph shows, like, okay, well, if you bring your own item, that will be priced differently. We have to charge you something. But it's also really cool because it's like, oh, well, all right, I get to keep my photos today.
Like, right. And God bless the fans.
So yes. And the thing, and they get very creative. I imagine the Little House fans are insanely creative. The things they make, they build entire replicas of the house in their yard.
Wow. Wow.
So bananas. So wait, 3-time Emmy nominated. Now, what did you get nominated for? And why on earth? I can't believe you didn't win. Which things were you nominated for?
Each time for Porky Pig. I don't remember what programs. I think the Looney Tunes show. I think Duck Dodgers I got nominated once. Maybe it was 2 for Looney Tunes show and 1 for Duck Dodgers, but all 3 for Porky Pig. I lost to this unknown, no talent named Lily Tomlin. I think
geez, man.
Yeah, for one of them. And the other 2 I might have lost. I think I lost one to Maurice LaMarche, who's brilliant, and I forget what the other one was. But the bottom line is, I hate to say the cliche, but it really is cool to be nominated.
Well, also when you lose to Lily Tomlin, you go, oh well. It's like,
well, we were sitting next to each other at the ceremony, and when she won, she looks at me and she gives me up. She goes, "I'm so sorry." And
That's so, she's so sweet. She is.
at the governor's ball, I said to her, "Look, you've got an Oscar nomination, you've got multiple Emmys, you've got a Grammy. Do you really need this one? Can you scratch off your name and just, I'll keep it for you if you want it back, but just, I can just scratch in Bob if you want." And she goes, "Actually, no, I want my Emmy."
She is also one of the nicest people absolutely ever. So,
Totally.
you are everything teacher, and as I said, an actor and wonderful person. And you had not only two one-man shows. I mean, you have managed to do everything, but your beginnings are fascinating. I mean, your launch into the world of voice, because it was like, how do I get into voiceover? Well, you were extremely tenacious and frankly kind of ballsy as a young person.
Yeah.
I do love the quote you have: "When I was 5 years old, I told my parents when I grew up I wanted to be Porky Pig. My mother said, 'Honey, you can't be Porky Pig, you're Jewish.'" Yes, that
Yeah.
could create an
Yeah, well, I will tell you, but I didn't even understand what that meant, because we were the kind of Jews with a Christmas tree next to a menorah. So,
and like bacon, and like
oh,
you're like,
please.
what? Yeah.
I mean, you are what you eat. Okay. But we lived in the Midwest, and the odds of, I mean, I don't even think my mom understood what I meant by that.
Of course she did. She's like, what is he talking about?
I mean, if I had said I wanted the underdog, she would have been, "That's fine, dear." So there was this character.
Hollywood. It wasn't like, okay, I was living in Hollywood, my family are in show business. You were in Ohio, and you suddenly go, "I want to be a cartoon." Your parents must have thought you'd taken leave of your senses.
Yeah, but I got in trouble because in school, when teachers would ask me questions, I would answer like Porky Pig. So it wasn't just a hobby; it was an obsession. So when my dad announced to the family we're moving to LA when I was 14, I was like, "Okay, Dad, you're not lying, right? This is not a joke. We're moving to LA," and because I knew cartoons were done here. And I was like thrilled. I was as soon as we arrived here, I just picked up the phone. There was no internet back then. I just picked up
Yellow Pages. I mean, I'm really like how you literally went through the phone book, and we had to go get a phone book and page through it and look people up and call them.
Yeah, exactly. Today, if you want to find somebody, just Google them, find their website, and say, how do I do what you do?
Oh, yeah, IMDb. Oh, here's all the companies that do this. They're on IMDb. Hi, yeah.
Oh yeah, and like you're like me. We're on every social media platform. We're reachable. It's so easy to reach us. Everybody out there, reach us. But back then, I mean, there were also unlisted phone numbers,
and I just find people. No,
I found people. I was able to find people, and I found good people. And long story short, we moved here when I was 14. I studied voiceover. I studied with everybody that offered a class, including Dawes Butler, which we talked about before we came on the air. I called Mel Blanc.
You just called Mel Blanc. Okay, Mel Blanc, the Mel Blanc, Bugs Bunny himself, Porky Pig. And you just said, well, I think I want to be Porky Pig. I should go call Mel Blanc himself, as he'll totally answer.
I didn't just call Mel Blanc. I during the course of the conversation, he mentioned the name of the studio he was working at that week, but he didn't say the day of the time. So when I was done with him, I called the studio and I pretended to be his assistant. And I said to the receptionist, "Hi, just calling to confirm Mel Blanc's appointment this week." And I just pulled this out of thin air, Thursday at 9. And she said, "No, we have him on the books for Wednesday at 11. I went, "Oh, you're right. I'm looking at the wrong date." So I said to my
you didn't do that like out of a movie. You did.
Yeah. I said to my mom, "I'm skipping school on Wednesday, and you're going to take me to see Mel Blanc at this studio." And she said, "Cool." So when we got to the studio, I said to the receptionist, "Hi, we're guests of Mel Blanc."
Oh.
And "Oh, he's in that booth over there." And I went to that booth over there, and I said to his producer, "Hi, we're friends of the receptionist." And she said we could watch. So that's how I got to watch him.
So, I mean, that's kind of outrageous. You kind of just went, "I'm doing this, and if I have to lie to several people, I'm doing it."
A little bit. And
14. He did 14. It's like that sounds reasonable to do.
Thank you. I'm an innocent little child.
At 14, you're like, yes, this makes total sense. Why would this be weird that I'm doing this? But and Mel Blanc did not kill you. He said, "Okay, fine. I guess you really want to do this."
He was lovely. No, you know what? He was nice. He gave me an autograph, and as we're driving home, I said to my mom, I don't think I can do Porky Pig right now because he's still doing it. And she said, and you're still in junior high and your voice hasn't changed.
Hello, thank you, Mom. Some moment of clarity and reality for
Back,
Mom. Okay, good,
back.
good. But he was willing to speak to you, which was like really cool. And then you kept at it, and then you wound up, yes, it was like, and then Hanna-Barbera to Bob Lloyd, et cetera, et cetera. But you wound up talking to Dawes Butler, and that's how you got into class.
Yeah,
The
Dawes.
infamous Dawes Butler. I mean, of Hanna-Barbera. My mother knew Dawes Butler. I mean, that, yeah, it's.
Of course, Dawes. I met him at an animation festival, and he invited me to study with him. But I studied with everybody that offered a class. I studied, acting for 2 years, improv for 3. I got my first agent a week out of high school, and I my first job a week after that. And then I was a tour guide at Universal Studios for 5 years, going, "Look, a shark!" because I had to feed myself. So that's pretty much how I got into the business.
But tour guide at Universal, there is stand-up comedy and acting involved there. You've got to be relatively entertaining and do shtick while you're in the van, in the tram there, or they would hire you.
Well, the bottom line is that the tour is this long, but when things break down, you gotta stall. Today they show videos. If things are broken down, you push a button and show a video. We had to just kind of banter, and it was fun. And Allison, no matter where we were on the tour, I would bring it to cartoons, okay? Because that was my love. So we might be on New York Street, okay, and the tram breaks, and I say, right now we're on New York Street, and as you can see, this looks like New York. If we're filming outdoors, and it could be a period piece like in the 30s, and a plane goes by, they might keep the film, but they might have to go into a sound stage to record the voices over, such as the sound stages where they recorded the Woody Woodpecker back in the 40s and 50s. And I would always move it to cartoons.
Like something like little advertising, like during the thing and everything.
I never know.
It was amazing. So you wound up studying with Dawes Butler, and you just kept going. And now you also teach. You teach voiceover.
I do. I've been teaching for years. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and with COVID, it's now done this way. What you and I are doing. I mean, I don't know if I'm ever going to go back in the studio teaching, because I love the one-on-one that I can do with students via Zoom, because it's so concentrated.
Well, there is that. And I kind of like this too. I mean, I was obviously like at the great studio we were doing the show out of, but then I had a lot of guests. Some of them are older, they were out of town. They're going, I wanted to do your show. Well, now that it's by Zoom, I guess I can do your show. So it does have its advantages. I know in reading your resume, talking about people teaching, Michael Bell's name pops up in there. I actually took a voiceover class from Michael Bell 5,000 years ago. I enjoyed it enormously. The one thing I remember is how to be a barking dog underwater.
Oh, how to do it? Well,
I did a dog fairly well, and then it's dog
right.
Small dog underwater.
I studied with Michael, as almost everybody did back in the day, and I did a cartoon years ago called Fraggle Rock, which was based on the HBO Muppet Fraggle Rock. And we had to do an episode where the Fraggles were underwater, and they brought out these bowls of water, and they wanted us to put our heads in the bowls with the microphone over us. And I said, here's the thing, guys. If the mic were to fall into the water, we're dead. So I said, can we just do it like this? Because that's how I learned how to do it with Michael Bell. And they said, oh, that's healthier. Sure.
Did they think that people did voices underwater by actually submersing themselves in water? I mean, what if you're doing it and then you inhale suddenly? I mean,
you know what? Here's the deal.
Potential for disaster.
Method voiceover is not necessary.
Right? Or like when I was a kid, and I always liked the part of It's a Small World when the mermaids show up, and I would always take a sip and but you can't do that. You can't do that for any length of time because you'll drown. So that's why in voiceover.
It's the Michael Bell School of Underwater Talking.
And it's great. And it totally works. It completely works. Why did you want to be Porky Pig? Do you know why you wanted to be Porky Pig? Why? Of all the things in the entire world, okay, I want to do voiceover. I want to be a cartoon. I want to be Porky Pig. What possessed you? Porky Pig.
It is the most common question I get, and the only answer I can give you is there was something about the comedy. There was something about, so people say to me, when you do Porky and you stutter, and he stutters on a word and then he does a left turn with an ad lib. Is that in the script? Sometimes it is.
Yeah, but most of the time it's just in my imagination. It's my imagination, and I make it up.
So I stutter until I think of the ad lib. As a kid, and you're a comedic actress. I think you're born an actor. I think you're born a painter. I think you're born a dancer. But experience puts you in that environment, and classes teach you technique to recreate your skills at will. So, let's be really honest. Nellie Olson was comic relief.
Yes.
I mean, early on she was just, the bitch, but later on she was comic relief.
And Harriet and Mrs. Olson.
Oh, my God.
The episode is hysterical. And I've always said if I wasn't on the show, we would have tuned in, and my family would have watched the show when Harriet and Nellie were on because they were fun.
Yeah. Well, but you can't. There are certain things that you're born with. You're born with comedic timing. You're born with pitch. You can't learn that. You can learn that you have it. That's what classes are for. Just the other day, because I'm an actor. This is where I work every day. I mean, I can show you right now that's my voiceover booth right there. Okay, I spend 8 to 12 hours a day in there, and in between auditions and work and stuff, I'm watching TV and I'm channel surfing. And I got to the episode where you taught Andy how to cheat.
Oh, I love that one.
And it's perfect comedic timing. Are you really smart? No, I cheat. And I mean, it was yes, and it was you were so serious, but that's a comedic moment.
I did like the one about memorizing everything. You can't remember all that. It clutters the mind.
Yes. And then at the end, when Harriet is freaking out and beating the hell out of you as you're leaving the school and you're screaming, well, that's a comedic moment.
And down the hill in a wheelchair, of course, is famously. Yeah, absolutely. It was totally comedy. That was why the show worked, because it had drama and comedy.
Exactly. So I liked the comedy of Porky. I liked the innocence of Porky. Now, when people say to me, when I get a job, I will say to the producer, so which Porky do you want? Because he kept evolving.
He did? No, yes, you're right. I was going, wait, which Porky? Oh, yeah.
So we did a show called Duck Dodgers, which was very reminiscent of Chuck Jones, Duck Dodgers from the 50s. We're doing a bunch of shorts right now called Looney Tunes cartoons for HBO Max, which is like 1940s Tex Avery, Bob Clampett, which we've never done in the 30 plus years I've been doing this character, because it's wacky, zany Looney Tunes, which they just kind of sort of hadn't revisited until now. And it's a blast.
Well, that's hard to do. I mean, that's why we haven't seen that. That's 40s style. That's not easy to do.
It's, you just have to shift gears. I remember when I first got the job, it was 1990, and they would play me like a 20-minute Mel Blanc reference. And some of the cartoons.
How did that transition? Because obviously nobody was going anywhere till Mel Blanc was doing everything to the last possible minute. How did that transition? Did they call you and say, well, he's getting sick? I mean, how?
No, what happened was, I don't think anybody prepared for it. And Mel Blanc passed away in 89. His dying wish was that his son Noel do these voices. Had Nolan to do some things, and they realized, I don't think Noel is the right choice. So they held auditions, and I had like a dozen callbacks. And then all of a sudden I got hired to do a cartoon called Tiny Toons in 1990. That was my first job. Yeah. So, and I was terrified, but I was hired to replace Noel. He had recorded it already, and I had to do 80
pressure.
Yeah, exactly. And then they hired me again. But they would play me, eventually, when it was just like me, they would play me this 20-minute reference of Mel. And some of it was from the 30s, some of it was from the 40s, some from the 50s. And I'd be like, which one do you want? And they said, well, it's all Porky. I said, no, it's Porky's evolution. Sort of like if you were to say, let's do a Little House in 1920, and they're like, here are some clips of Nellie, and they're like showing you from the first season. They're like, that's not Nellie. Nellie evolved.
Right.
And
Which one? When she was like 12 and like it was my own hair, not the wig little squeaky thing? When she was
yeah,
like really high dudgeon evil by 14? Or when she was like nice and married to Percival? I mean, pick a year, right?
right. Well,
Yeah.
so
So
if you watch The Simpsons, if you watch All in the Family, if you watch any classic show that lasts longer than a couple of seasons, episode 10 is different from 1. Season 5 is different from season 1. So I would say, which one do you want? So if I don't have a choice, if they don't say we want it this way, my sweet spot for Porky is 1954 to 1958.
yes, that makes total sense. That's the one. That sort of feels like the one we all know, like was the one that was rerun on TV the most. That
Yeah.
most of us know. That's the Porky. But stylistically, I mean, I'm a huge cartoon nut, and stylistically, the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and the 60s are completely different worlds in cartoon land.
So different. And in the 60s, Mel Blanc was older. I mean, they stopped doing Looney Tunes the studio closed down in 62-ish, 63-ish, and then they stopped doing, they would farm out the shorts till about 68, 69. And Mel Blanc had a car accident in the early 60s when he was doing the Flintstones. And, it did a lot. It slowed him down. It altered his voice. It altered his energy. So the hardest thing for me to say as Porky is that's all, folks. Because Mel Blanc said it one time in the 30s when he first got the job. And by the way, he wasn't the original voice of Porky Pig. He took over for a guy named George Doherty who actually stuttered.
No, shut up! I did not know that. No, stop.
And he and it was before tape, so things were recorded on film. And Jack Warner was getting these outrageous film stock bills for cartoons, and he's like, "Why are we charging so much for film?" And they said, well, because the guy that does the pig stutter, and they would speed up his Porky. So Jack Warner said, get somebody cheaper. So they got Mel Blanc, but they kept speeding him up because they wanted to have consistency with the original guy. Well, he said that's all, folks, one time, like in 19, and they stopped using it at the end of the cartoons in the early 40s. So when people say to me, can you say that's all, folks? I'm like, well, do you want his original or how I would do it now? And that throws people. I mean, trust me, Allison, it's a science doing what we do.
Right. And then also that is just I did realize the idea that they hired someone, also the idea that someone was working in voiceover who actually stuttered strikes us as an odd concept nowadays. Wait, would that be a thing? And then they have to bring in someone, and now the character stutters. That's something that with all the things I've read about cartoons, I just am floored going, what? No way.
I know, right?
It's like the strangest thing. Well, it's the style suggestions. Like when you look at my mother was Casper, but like you look at Casper in he started in the 30s, the old Caspers. That's a whole other thing. And then my mother came in that 50s, 60s, and then the huge 60s Hanna-Barbera, the big with Dawes Butler doing stuff. The huge Hanna-Barbera block O Casper is all her, and that is a very specific style. That is its own thing.
Yes, yeah. The original Casper. The very first Casper cartoon was kind of melancholy,
He's dead.
He's dead. It was a little boy that died. It was chubby, and it was just this. It just didn't. It wasn't the feel good. And then when Harvey Toons was at its highest, that's the Casper you and I know. That's the Casper.
Yeah.
Grew up.
Yeah, well, it was sad because the poor little guy, and then no one is his friend because he's a ghost, and it was like a kind of very sad little cartoon. So then he had friends, because then suddenly he had Spooky and Nightmare and Wendy and the Ghostly Trio. So he had a lot of friends,
Right.
Most of whom were my mom's.
Exactly. Oh, right. Exactly.
So weird. The experience of doing a cartoon where you're playing multiple people in the same cartoon. You've done that one.
You do that.
How weird is that?
It's not. It's what we do. It depends on the show. Because of COVID, we're all doing home recording right now. So we usually we're by ourselves. We do one character first, and then we'll do the next character. But when I first got in the business, it was like a radio play where you would just go from character to character. I mean, my record was 7 in a single cartoon. I had a 7-way conversation with myself. That's the year I discovered margaritas.
You discovered what?
Margaritas. I was like, well, I need
That
something.
would do it.
Yeah.
Yes, my mother had to do this. So when she's doing Davy, she's Davy's mom and Davy's sister and all of Davy's friends. Her head was spinning. I mean, it's like, what, where am I?
But it's what we do. I mean, I felt like Sybil at the end of that first card characters. But the bottom line is, it's what we're trained to do. I think if you were to sit down, God bless him, with Sammy Davis back in the day and say, how did you dance that way? It's what he does. It's the God-given gift that he has, and it's organic to him. This is organic to me. This is what I do.
Well, I mean, you were a child. You knew you wanted to do it. And by 14, you were harassing people on the phone. I mean, that's you. Yeah, you were born to do this.
Yeah. And the thing is, I can't fence. I don't dance. I can't sing opera. But doing multiple characters, that's my thing. That's what I do.
So in teaching this, because having trained so much and then being absolutely just ingrained that this is what you do, when you teach people, and as you said, they have to have the basic bent towards this, the basic talent there, what kind of techniques, what are the most important techniques that you really pass on to them? Say, okay, this is what you're going to need to know. If you want to do this, you have this idea and you have the right feeling, your heart's in the right place. This is what you need to know to actually make it happen.
Yeah, this could be another 5 hours between you and I. But first of all, 80% of animation is in the imagination. When you get the audition, especially for a pilot that's never been done, you get limited information. So your job is to fill in the blanks. Your job is to decide, who am I talking to? What's our relationship? Where are we? The microphone is the ear of your scene partner. So where you are on mic, from scene to scene, from line to line, corresponds with where you imagine the characters are within the animation. And that information, again, is not there. Acting is reacting. You know that. And you, I'm sure, have been in a casting call with the casting director or the reader who cannot act, cannot respond.
Refuses to because they're eating a pizza and on the phone while you're
Exactly. So I'm auditioning by myself in my home studio. I have to imagine in my mind what's happening, who my scene partner is, even though they haven't been cast. You must make bold choices. Who am I talking to? What's our relationship? Where are we? And you have to physically play the character. It's not just a voice.
That's something I think people don't understand, because they go, well, it's a voice. I'm hearing it. They think it's very in their heads, like you're just in a room quietly with a mic. But I've seen where they had old film of Mel Blanc in the studio and other great cartoonists. They're not sitting down. They're bouncing around the room. It's a show. And you are physically doing the character.
I can guarantee that your mom's facial expressions were different for Casper versus Sweet Polly Purebred versus Wendy versus Spooky, because you're playing a character. You're not doing a voice. All characters have a voice, but not all voices have character. That's my number one rule in this. You've got to think about all the things that we all do for on camera or theater, all those little layers of character and personality that it's in our head. It might be subtle, but it translates on the microphone. You got to think about the person listening to that audition. 99% are doing an evil voice, but every once in a while, someone is doing something like a Hannibal Lecter. Let's say the character is just a villain, just an evil villain, and 99% are going to play an evil villain. But every once in a while, someone's going to do a Hannibal Lecter sort of character with a smile, because that smile makes it more sinister. Or you look at J.R. Ewing. You know that he was a villain, but he was a charmer. You know,
my God, nothing scarier than a happy villain.
Well, you should know better than anybody,
right?
Okay, because a smile makes the character. First of all, a villain has to be likable. Let's start right there. If a villain is nothing but horrible, then the audience doesn't love them. But we loved Millie Olsen. We loved J.R. Ewing. We loved Norman Bates. You know, I mean,
the
you.
Grinch. We love because and when you're doing the villain, it's thing is you obviously acting, you have to justify, you have to believe. No matter how awful the person you're playing is, some part of your brain, even though you may go, wow, that was pretty bad, has to go, yes, that makes total sense. Of course I need to do that. I have to do this terrible thing right now because I have to, because of course it makes sense.
And the actor has to find something redeeming behind that decision for that character. I'm also big on physical. You know, if you physically play the character, the voice will follow. So if you have a character with an underbite, if you just give yourself an underbite, well, the voice just changed. I'm not changing my voice; it sounds different. But if the copy says they're from Mississippi, and I just give it a little like from Mississippi, and the picture he's got a smile, and then he's got a wrinkle right here, make him more nasal, and you see the character got a little pipe he's smoking, so I give him a little age because he's been smoking a pipe for many years. So it's just layer upon layer creating character.
And some of that even goes to like when, I've done the thing of answering phones and like setting up voicemails and answering phones in office. This is the oldest trick of the book. If you answer the phone, Smith Jones Incorporated, or you force yourself to smile, even if it's 7 o'clock in the morning and you haven't had coffee, you don't want to do it.
Right.
Smith Jones Incorporated until it's a hell. If you make yourself smile when you answer the phone and speak, and go, well, she was so nice on the phone.
As a voice actor, we don't have costumes, we don't have props, but what we have is our imagination. So going back to Lily Tomlin, who we talked about earlier, Lily told me that she really knows the character when she puts on the wig and she wears the shoes. And she makes her own wigs. She makes the wigs for.
I did not know that. I didn't know these things. Incredible. I did not know that.
She told me she makes the wigs for her characters, and it's cathartic, and she actually builds the characters when she does that. So if someone at an autograph show were to say to you, let me hear you do Nellie Olson, you can do it. But if someone put on those little wigs, the little curls, and the bonnet, and the shoes, and the lace up, and everything, wouldn't you just add more to the character?
Totally. And when I play someone, it's like, well, what am I wearing? Sometimes when I work out the costume, it's like, okay, now, thanks. Once I'm in the costume, it's a completely different thing. I rehearse in the costume.
Oh, yeah.
And when you have to rehearse in the shoes you're going to wear in the show, because you're going to walk, it's going to change your whole physique and your walk. But yeah, I mean, even when someone says, oh, like say Country Girls, it's not just, I don't just say, it's, I go, because I go there. I go wherever the heck I was when I said that. And that's why it sounds good.
And that's episode 2?
Yeah, right. And people always feel like, oh, can you make that face? The hideous, but it's not even making the face. It's literally, it's a thought. It's a thing that goes through my head, and then that terrible facial expression comes out. And it's like, this is method. But that's the thing. Most people don't think of that with cartoons. They think, well, it's all happening here, and it's not. It's the whole thing.
No, when I would bring my students to recording sessions, I would tell the engineer on this take, turn the volume down, and I'd say, guys, watch them. And you'd see them working the mic, and you see the physical, and you see when they're doing a superhero tug of war, and all the physicality that goes with it. And you can actually tell which character they're playing just by watching them.
So, okay, now you also, I mean, with the cartoons, the big, but you're Luke Skywalker in the video game.
I'm doing working for the Star Wars universe for like 25 years. Yeah.
How strange is that to be? Because obviously that's, again, another massively identifiable thing, but then you're becoming that person and it's in a video game.
And it's, I mean, I've seen Star Wars. I'm not a super fan. So every time I work on the Star Wars thing, I'm like, how do you pronounce this planet? How do you pronounce this character? We did a show. It's called The Bad Batch for Disney Plus, where I play Lama Su, who's a villain. I mean, just very different from Luke Skywalker. He just has a very cool and calculated voice. And I get very close to the mic so I can hear my sinuses rattle. The Star Wars universe, the fandom is phenomenal. I'm sure you've been to fan conventions and autograph shows where people remember specific episodes in your lives, and you're like, was I in that episode? Did I do that? But they know, the fans know. and
Oh,
respect them.
sometimes if I get a question, like I have an email interview thing, and they ask about a specific, I sometimes call a fan and go, "Do you remember what
Oh,
that?" I guess
yes.
that's like,
Yeah.
you remember
Yeah.
better than I do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of do that with the Star Wars universe. I'll tell you how I got Luke Skywalker. They were holding auditions for a game early on in the world of games, and I said to my agent, "I can't do Luke Skywalker. I can't do Mark Hamill."
Right?
And my
Right,
agent
yeah.
said, "Do you want me to turn it down?" I said, "Yeah." And she called me back and she said, "They still want to see it." And I went, "Okay." And so I went to Studiopolis in Studio City and I walked into the producers and I said, "I can't do Luke Skywalker." And they said, no, I said, "I can't do Mark Hamill."
Yeah.
And they said, "Don't do Mark Hamill. Do Luke Skywalker."
Don't
went,
do Mel Blanc, do Porky Pig. Don't do, right.
But okay. And they said they heard something in my timbre that I sounded enough like Mark, where I just had to find. And so Luke Skywalker, early on, he was kind of a whiny guy. And then he got this thing called the Force, and he got a little bit more centered. So that worked for me, you know. Bottom line is, actors, don't say no. Just go.
And it's true because sometimes you go audition for some like weird thing and you don't get it, but then they call you back for the thing that you are supposed to be in, and like
But
weird.
didn't you originally for Laura?
Hmm? Yeah, exactly. I went
Yeah.
on a crazy go-see where they're like, "We're making a show with these books," and I'm like, "I've never read them. What? Who? Where? What?" And then like read for Lord, read for Mary, and was like, whatever. And then they made the pilot, and then I get a phone call.
Yeah, and the rest is history.
Right. Yep. So you do the one-man shows. Now that was fascinating because you then like, well, it sounds like you have sort of my streak, the work ethic of like, I'm going to work. Oh, I'm not working right now. Let me find another thing to do. So like in addition to the cartoons and the teaching and the this and the oh, then you did this comedy, this one-man show talking about your life and cartoons.
Yeah, it actually, I was a tour guide at Universal Studios, and it originally started out as an idea. It was like Taxi meets the break room at a studio tour. So all of these wacky people who were at the Universal Studios tour. And my manager at the time said, pilots are tough. Scripts are written and they get ignored. Could you present this as can you play all these characters? I said, yeah, probably. And then as we worked on that, he said, "You want to make this a 3-act show? I want to be Porky Pig as a kid, but I've got to feed myself as a tour guide." And then I became Porky Pig. I said, "Okay, sure." And that's kind of how that whole thing happened. And we did 2 different incarnations of it. And I've done it all over the place. I did it in New York, I did it in Chicago, I did it in Atlanta, I did a couple of runs here. I haven't done it in a long time, but you've done your own theater. I know you've done your own produced shows. I saw you do Amy Carter a million years ago. I don't know if you.
Yes,
You were
that's
brilliant.
well, Carter was. My mother had been on the first Family album about
I know.
JFK. She was Caroline
I
and John John. So when Carter
know.
was, it was like, "Oh, look, there's a child in the White House, ha 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 ha!" And your mom
But they
plays
had
again.
the
Why don't we
wig,
do it? Right?
yeah,
Why don't we do a thing where you send up the Amy Carter? Oh, and I have my own. I actually kind of basically with the glasses, I look like her, the long hair, and yeah, so I was awesome. Yeah.
Did you do it at the Ice House or the Improv? Because I don't
I
remember.
all of the above. Comedy Store.
Okay,
Yes, it was like at the end of my act. At the end of my act, I go, "And now Amy Carter," and just like go into this bizarre thing.
it was so
And then
funny because
we did an album. We did an album.
you with the mic, dark stage with a spotlight, and you just became Amy Carter. Now, it wasn't Amy Carter because Amy Carter was a kid, but it was the Amy Carter we all wanted her to be, and you were so good. You were so brilliant.
Very nice. Well, very nice about these things. But that's the thing. Yeah, in doing, and the one woman show also, again, like you said about pilots. So when you're an actor and you have something you want to put out there, and it's like, well, we could like a pilot. And then we go to 1,000 meetings. And then the old joke about like network executives, how many network executives does it take to screw in a light bulb? Does it have to be a light bulb? And, they want to change everything. And like, well, we love your show. We're casting someone else as you. And it's just like, what am I doing? And it can take years and it's about, or you can do it on stage and you could get it up next week and people could come in and see it.
Yeah, and the bottom line is, as you know, producing your own thing is a lot of work. Acting is easy, producing sucks. I have nothing but respect for producers. I learned about insurance. I learned about actors' equity and equity waiver and all that stuff. But creatively, it was so satisfying.
Yep. Yep. And you get control of it and you get the thing out. And then, I mean, and it morphs into other things because then my one woman show I started doing with all the real stories, and then it wound up. And I first got the book deal and the thing, and now I have the French version. It's like that.
I know.
But it leads to other stuff. It does. So doing one person shows leads to other stuff.
And you know what? I mean, people say, when are you going to do it again? When I get the inkling. When I go, the last time I did it was so long ago, but it's 10 years in between. That's 10 years of life I want to add to it, and 10 years of characters and ups and downs. That's the thing I did in my one-man show. It was literally, this is not all peaches and cream what we do. People think it is, but it's not. There's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of disappointment, and there's a lot of euphoria too. But I think, when you do something like that, you're a little bit vulnerable. And people relate to it because oh my God, you're not just the pig. You're not just the country girl. And you're just, no, I'm the person who played those characters. And by golly, there's more to me than.
That's another great advantage of the one person show, the stand up, to come out, because that way you can take, if you're hugely identified with something,
Yeah.
Right, you can then come out and go, yes, here it is, and oh look, here's me, and you could. That's why it's so handy to do that. You should do another one because you lived an entire chunk of life since then, and more characters and more incredible stories. Have you written a book, and are you planning to?
Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah, I've been starting and stopping the same book for years. It's called Porky Dishes. It's not dishy. But every chapter comes with a fabulous pork recipe.
Okay, that's wonderfully weird. But that is how it starts. You start and stop. I know I started and stopped on my book for ages. And then one day it was like, oh, it's this. And yeah.
Well, I know it. I've got bullet points. I've got so much, just piles of paper ready to go, but I'm not a writer. I can write ideas, but I need someone, and I've got a friend who's going to help me with this. But I also need a publisher. Hi, publishers, are you there?
And you need a good literary agent and a good editor and all those things. It's a group process. Writing a book is a group process, but it's awesome. But you would be your book would be great, and it would sell, and I would like it. And there you go.
But when you did your one person show and I did mine, I remember sitting backstage early on going, my mom likes these stories, but is anybody going to show up? And they did. They did.
Yes.
By the way, I didn't get permission from Warner Brothers to do any of this stuff when I first did it. And the way my show works is I have Porky Pig doing an interview with Larry King. And
nice.
And it's in the dark. When the lights come up, I'm sitting on a chair. And the first performance I did in North Hollywood, the lights came up, and sitting in front of me was the president, vice president, attorney from Warner Brothers, like this.
No.
And I will tell you that they gave me afterwards their full permission because it's a love story. It is like, this was my passion. I don't tell anything that shouldn't be told to public because I don't think I want to taint my work, the memory of.
And you didn't show your characters, if anything, it was like advertising.
We've all worked with people that we didn't necessarily love. I don't need to share that in my one-man show. I might touch upon some things in the book, but I'm still going to be respectful for the talent that they were.
Yeah. And that's the thing is everyone, it's good to, even in my book, at Dish People, and they go, but then they were like really good at this.
Yeah, and I know who you're talking
about. Something.
But she was a very important part of the show. The little house didn't have. They needed the characters. They needed all the sisters. So I have people I've worked with over the years where at the mic we were Fred and Ginger, but in real life they were not nice.
Well, and that's the thing when you're working. I mean, there are situations where it's like, okay, we're going to make a show now. You can go hate whoever you want to hate after 5, but we're going to make a show now.
I think the world would be amazed at some of the most brilliant TV shows, rock bands, movies, that when the director said cut, it's Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Those two, when they said cut, they hated each other, but on camera, I think that added to their performances.
Oh, there's movies where a couple of the actors couldn't be in the rooms, but where it's shot. There's like over the shoulder
Oh
stuff
my
with
God.
somebody else, where they're like the two actresses were like never on the lot at the same time, and
Oh
they
yeah.
made an entire picture.
And you've got just a little bit of hair on a stand, and it kind of looks like the over the shoulder shot. Good enough.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So no, it happens. So in addition to all of this, as I said, all around good person. I'm reading in the thing. You also Jewish Big Brothers. You also do that.
Yeah, well, I did for 25 years, 2 kids. It was fabulous. I haven't done it for a while, but each kid was 12 years, from age 6 to almost 18. It was a blast. The nice thing about being a big brother is that you are the buddy, but when they become a certain age where they're jerks, you take them home.
There you go.
It's
Go
like
back to your parents.
yeah, but it was incredibly rewarding. I loved every second. What I also loved about it was that neither kid was impressed with what I did. I think if I was a skateboarder, they would have been more impressed. But they didn't care that I was in show business, and I loved that because we connected on a human level, on a real level. And I was a kid. I know what kids like and don't like, and it was a blast. I loved every second of it.
But see, that's also so you. I mean, the teaching and the doing and stuff that you're not someone who's just like, well, I'm a working actor in cartoons and I make money and that's it. You're also reaching out to other people in the world to make their lives better, help them achieve their dreams to become the Porky Pigs or whatever they want to be.
Yeah, and I think, we're not defined by what we do for a living. There's got to be more. I know that you were extremely active in AIDS early on. I announced some ribbon something at the TV Academy that you were involved with. I forget what it was called. But
Oh,
it was
the Ribbon of Hope thing with
Ribbon
Kate
of
Linder
Hope.
and everybody. Yes.
Yes, and David Michaels, and it was just it was just a wonderful. I wish they still did that. It was an annual. I hate to use the word celebration, but it really was a celebration. But
Great event.
it was a tremendous event. Look, you've got to be more than, and if you are lucky enough to make a living at something that people recognize and like, and you can use that for good, do it.
See, that's what I say all the time. It's like there are people who are hugely famous out there and they could just go on TV and say, adopt a kitten, plant a tree. And it's like anything, you get this bizarre gift that fell out of the sky that you're famous. And you can use that to help people. They're already watching, they're already listening. So you could have something out there that is useful to people. And I've always thought that was the way to go.
Well, everybody has something in their life that they're passionate about. They might have lost a family member to, I don't know, name something. They might have had there's a history of cataracts and blindness, whatever. But, let's be honest, fame is circumstantial. All of us want to be a working actor and pay the bills. Every once in a while, a small group get known by something. And, with social media and the internet and fan conventions, more are known than ever before. But if that happens to you, find something that is in your heart, passionately important, and use that, because that window is only open for so long. So as often as you possibly can, find, it doesn't matter what that it is, but do it.
All right, what are you doing next? What are you doing now? Where can they find you?
Lots of Looney Tunes stuff. We're finishing up the HBO Max Looney Tunes shorts. I can't, we have NDAs. A couple of other Looney Tunes things I can't talk about. I did this Bad Batch for Disney Plus, this Star Wars. I'm on a show on Netflix called Ridley Jones,
Where I play he's
like Nellie Olson.
he's a villain, but he's comedic. No, I hate those Joneses. He runs a museum.
It's busy. This 18 months of COVID has been the busiest of my career.
Well, because there's plenty if you can't have productions where people in the room with each other, oh, well, I guess let's do more cartoons. It's convenient. People can work from home more with that.
Yeah, and I had to upgrade my home studio because of COVID, but I did it fast. I don't have to drive on the dreaded 405 to get to places. I just miss people. I miss this. I miss like in a room with people. I miss hugs. I miss how's your family? How's your husband? How's your wife? I miss that.
And then I've kind of like got a little live stuff this year because I've been doing stand-up comedy over in that side of the room, and then the show here, and then the Facebook readings. But I got to go to New York, and I did one show there, and the Fringe Festival, and I did France, and now it's like, oh, winter's coming. I guess we better gear up the backdrop again. We'll be doing some more stuff in the house for a while. So it's like, okay, well, whichever one we're doing this week,
I think the last time I saw you in person might have been bingo. But that was a while.
Wow, that's a long time ago. Oh, geez,
while.
Louise. Okay, we have to do something in person together.
Yes.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be fun to do a bit with Nellie Olson and Porky Pig?
That would be really weird. Oh, we could.
You wear the curls, I'll wear a snout.
Country pig. All right, you are amazing. You are lovely, and you're Porky Pig. So, like, what else does anybody did life possibly want? Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, my dear. And I guess I will say,
that's all, folks.
You did it. Good fake. Thank you so much. And that's Bob Bergen, and I'm Allison Arngrim, and this is the Allison Arngrim Show.